Good afternoon. I'm Joel Franklin. Welcome to today's JLG webinar series, Stars So Far. From favorite authors Nikki Grimes and Kevin Henkes to a heartwarming story about foster kids, the stars are shining this season. Today, we welcome Shelley Diaz to our webcast series. Shelley is no stranger to children's and teen books, as she is the reviews manager and young adult editor at School Library Journal. Please join today's conversation on Twitter. You can tweet us at JR Library Guild and use the hashtag JLGWebinars. If you have any questions or comments, you can send those in at any time via the red Q&A box. We've actually already featured many starred books in our previous webcast, right, Deb?
That's right, Joel. We have. From as far back as December 26th. We book talked many of the stars so far. So far, The Hate U Give is the only book that has 6 starred reviews from the journals. We could talk about Big Cat, Little Cat, but we already did. We could talk about Wolf in the Snow, but we already did. We could talk about American Street, which has 5 stars, but we already did. And Grand Canyon, and Flying Lessons, and The Secret Project, but we already did. What about Vincent and Theo? We could talk about that, the story of the Van Gogh brothers. It also received 5 stars.
Oh, well, Deborah, I can't talk about Vincent and Theo.
You can't talk about Vincent and Theo, but why, Shelley?
Well, because I'm currently on the YALSA Nonfiction Excellence in Nonfiction Award Committee, and I cannot discuss books publicly that are eligible for this award, which are nonfiction books for 12 to 18-year-olds. So as much as I would like to talk about it.
I know. So, and this fills that little gap, doesn't it? It's certainly eligible. So why don't you tell us about this committee? Is this something that everybody ought to know about?
Yes, it's a great committee for YALSA members and for those who are interested in nonfiction for young adults. You can apply at the YALSA website, and you can also suggest titles as well. So if there are any great nonfiction titles for teens, 12 to 18-year-old, that you think are eligible, published from January 2017 to December 2017, feel free to go to the YALSA website and nominate a title.
Awesome. Okay, you guys out there listening, you should do it. I'm not going to tell you which titles to do it, and Shelley absolutely cannot. We don't want her bumped off her committee, and we thank her for her service to the YALSA committee and those that are on it. Well, how about this one? We are okay. I picked this one. So we can talk about this because it's fiction, and it's young adult. It has 4 stars, so we're good. So this is a story, and I will tell you, it's a carryover from the blue covers from last year. And you've heard me say before that many of the books from 2016, if they have blue on their cover, it was a tissue book. And so here we have a tissue book for sure, because Marin, M-A-R-I-N, and those of you in California will go, hey, I know where that is. Marin has experienced great grief, and she's been living with her grandfather because her mother drowned when she was just a child, and she has this life with her grandfather and her best friend, Mabel. But then when her grandfather suddenly dies, Marin is now in New York City at school, staying in the dorms all by herself. And at Christmas time, her friend Mabel comes to stay with her. She really wants her to come back to California, but Marin is carrying a load of grief that she can't get over. She has a secret, and if you want to know what the secret is, you'll have to read it yourself.
Yeah, this book is a wonderful title from Nina LaCour. It's definitely one that everyone, especially her fans, should read. And I would like to talk about one book that's a little bit more chipper, not one of our grief titles on this presentation, and it is the great Kevin Henkes' latest title, which is the follow-up to Waiting, the multiple award-winning book. And Egg is just perfect thing that you need for springtime, which is hopefully around the corner anytime soon. And it's just this beautiful, palette that he uses in this title. And it's really a story about friendship. It's 3 eggs that crack, a pink, yellow, blue egg. But meanwhile, there's a green egg that has not cracked. And the little chickies are wondering what's going on in that green egg. And eventually, a green crocodile cracks out of that green egg. And, the little chickies are frightened, but sooner or later, a friendship arises. And what I love about this picture book is just that it's kind of a precursor to graphic novel. It's in a picture book form. And Henkes creates these frames where parts of the story take place, and each of the chickies have such personality. There's so much emotion in each of their faces, and the concise text and straightforward illustrations are just right for the youngest readers. But also it's something that adults can read, and you can just pour over and read and talk over again and again.
And it's his 50th book, too.
That's
Can
right.
you imagine?
His 50th book. He's
his
a master.
50th book. He is the master. Another pair that is the master is Molly Bang and Penny Chisholm, and this is part of the series, the Sunlight series, Rivers of Sunlight, How the Sun Moves Water Around the Earth. And it begins like this. I am your sun. My energy warms your days. I light up your world. But of all my planets, only one is teeming with life, your Earth. Why? Because it's covered with water, H2O, always moving, always changing, from liquid to solid to vapor and back again. Together, water and I give life to your blue planet and to you. And so it talks about the life cycle of the water cycle, and it's got great vocabulary. It's perfect for STEAM. Gorgeous book. So I hope you'll add this to your elementary library science books. Shelley, why don't you shift us into the middle grades?
Yeah, and this book actually, Ashes to Asheville by Sarah Dooley, published by Putnam and Penguin Young Readers. It's received 3-starred reviews so far, and it's the follow-up to Sarah Dooley's beautiful free verse. And once again, she has a middle grade novel that deals with very heavy issues set in the South, and it's this really sad tale of a 12-year-old fella who is ripped from her parent, her remaining parent, because her mama Lacey has died, and Mama Shannon, who has a 16-year-old daughter named Zoe, the little girl fella has to go live with her grandmother instead of with Mama Shannon and the family that she's known for most of her life. So in the middle of the night, 16-year-old Zoe, a.k.a. Zany, kidnaps fella to try to see if they can fulfill their mom's last wish, which was to spread her ashes and scatter her ashes. And it's really a tale of what makes a family, who really constitutes your family. And obviously there's a little bit of humor in this novel, but it handles some really sensitive topics the way that only Sarah Dooley can.
Absolutely. And look, it has blue letters on the front.
Yes, there's certainly a theme.
It is a theme. Our next book also received 4 stars, and it's by award-winning Nikki Grimes. Beautiful nonfiction book where Nikki takes power from the past, from the Harlem Renaissance, and it's written in several parts, and there's lots of back matter and actually front matter for that matter, but it's written in 3 parts. And let me read to you the first poem, and then I'm going to read to you some of the last poem. Emergency measures. My sister and I watch the 5 o'clock news, which spells out our worth in the world. According to the reports, it's somewhere on the minus side. That may be only hearsay, but how can I live long enough to disprove the lie? How can I stay strong in a world where fear and hate wait outside my door? My teacher tells me to go in search of counsel, back to the Harlem Renaissance, when poetry burst like a dam and a river of wisdom words rush through the streets I call home. Can I really find fuel for the future in the past? And she goes from there, and we go back and forth from poems that Nikki has written to poems from the Harlem Renaissance, and then she ends with this. I leave the glory days by Nikki Grimes. I leave the glory days of the Harlem Renaissance, swim to the surface of the bowl of years, and take a sweet breath. Standing taller than ever, I feel full of something strange and delicious, hope. Teacher was right. The past is a ladder that can help you keep climbing. I find my sister in the living room, surprise her with a tight squeeze, and swing into the air. We're going to be all right, sis, I whisper. You and me, we're going to be okay. I know life will be rough, but we've got the stuff to make it. I just love that. Don't you love that, Shelley?
Yeah, it just offers so much hope, and for every kid, we have the stuff to make it. It's just so full of just verve and everything that Nikki writes is amazing. It's no wonder that she won the Wilder Award this year. It's totally deserved.
Absolutely.
Now, going into the YA sphere, we have the second book by Adam Silvera, his sophomore novel. It's already received 4 stars, and Adam just continues to wow with every book that he's written. He has another book coming out in the fall, and this one is just a beautiful follow-up to More Happy Than Not. And from just from the first page, it's just so, Griffin's voice is so strong, it grabs readers. This book is told in alternating chapters taking place in the present day and chapters taking place in the past. Griffin is attending the funeral of his first love, Theo, and it's about his grief and overcoming that grief, and someone who's going along with, who's also participating in that same situation is Jackson, Theo's new boyfriend. So it's back and forth between the present day and Griffin's grief, but also his first love and how their relationship first came about. And what I love about this book is that it's such a powerful voice, such a powerful narrative voice, and Griffin has OCD, but it's not the point of the story. It's just part of who he is. And we really get to see through his eyes how often first love, it seems perfect, but little by little we start to understand that maybe Theo wasn't so perfect. And it's just such a beautiful character development that we see throughout the novel.
We do. We did a diversity webcast back in February, and one of the things people asked for afterwards were books that have a diversity as part of the story, but it wasn't the whole story. It's just part of their character, and this is another example of that. On the other spectrum, we have a picture book, a greyhound, a groundhog, and this is a lyrical poem. Sometimes I have trouble just saying the title, so you may have to practice a little bit. It's already gotten 4 stars. Here's an inside spread so you can see a little bit about it. A groundhog, a greyhound, a round little greyhound, a greyhound, a groundhog, a brown little groundhog. You see how you could get yourself all kind of tangled up in there. But it's a fun read. Your kids will like it. It's perfect for story time. So those of you that are in the public library, you want to make sure you snag a copy of this, and don't wait till February to read it.
Yeah, that one's such a sweet title. But Bang by Barry Lyga is another grim book, and I realize looking at these titles that I'm talking about, they're all pretty sad, and I'm sorry about that, but they're all really, really good.
They are really, really good, and I think sadness it's important for kids to see they're not alone.
Exactly. And especially in the YA sphere where, emotions and angst are often coupled with really strong situations and difficult situations that occur to teens. And in this book, Sebastian Cody, when he was 4 years old, he accidentally shot and killed his infant sister with his father's gun. And we kind of fast forward to 10 years later, and he's currently contemplating suicide. He really believes that this is his last summer, and he's kind of putting his ducks in a row and planning to commit suicide at the end of the summer. And meanwhile, a new girl moves in. Her name is Anissa. She's a Muslim girl, and she kind of gives him a reason to maybe stay a while. And they build a friendship, and they kind of create like a YouTube channel where he starts creating these different pizzas. And as I was reading the book, and even though it's a book that is really sad, it has these amazing moments of friendship and all these amazing pizzas that Sebastian creates. And his YouTube channel kind of blows up because of that. Like, it becomes very, very popular. But he kind of misconstrues the relationship that he has with Anissa, and they kind of have a falling out. So he once again begins to think that maybe it's time to end his life. So I won't say what happens in the end, but it's really a book about grief, and overcoming trauma. It's received 3 stars so far, and you know that Barry Lyga has such strong writing chops, and he really does display that in this book.
He does. It also makes you terribly hungry.
Yes. Oh, yes. I want a pizza right now.
And exactly. And I love that whole friendship with them, and I love Anissa's parents. And you're right. It's an amazing, amazing book, and absolutely a must-read for, I think, everybody.
For sure.
Ought to read it. Yeah, for sure. So this next book is also yours.
Yes. And this one is not blue, maybe turquoise, and it's it's from Groundwood, and it's received 3 stars. And it's a really kind of deceptive, simple picture book about a little girl who is accompanied by a lion wherever she goes. And we're never quite sure if this is a lion in her imagination or her imaginary friend, or if it's an actual lion. There's kind of like a blurred line. And this is another offering from the pair that created Two White Rabbits and Jimmy the Greatest. It's set in Latin America, and we know this not because the text is in Spanish or anything, but kind of like the signs that the little girl on the street that the little girl walks through doing her chores, they're all in Spanish. And she has kind of a tough life. Like, she has to help her mom do a lot of the household chores, and they live in a poor neighborhood. Their house has cracks in the wall, and she does a lot of the household chores while the mom works in the factory. And you realize little by little that the dad is not there, and you're not sure why. It could be different reasons. But at the end, you see that there's a kind of like a family portrait where the dad looks a lot like the lion. He has that big shaggy hair, and he might have been one of the disappeared, which historically in Latin America has happened a lot, where people who are against the government were all of a sudden disappeared. So even though this is a picture book and it's definitely for younger readers, it kind of has many, many layers, and just the illustrations are beautiful to look at, and it has so many levels.
And I think that's a sign of a really good writer, to be able to
Definitely
address more than one thing in more than one way in a story, whether it's a picture book or it's a chapter book. And I think the same thing is probably true about this next book, Forever or A Long, Long Time. Do you know how to say her name, Shelley? Carter. Is it Kayla?
It's probably Kayla. Yeah. I'm not
we
sure.
have we have an authority that we shall ask on the back end of this. As you recall, we've talked about teachingbooks.net before, that we can go and we can look them up and hear how the author or illustrator says his or her name. But Forever or a Lone Time, actually Kaylee read this book first and said, oh, you got to read this book. So I brought it on a trip not too long ago. It got 3 stars, or it has 3 stars so far, and it's a story about an 11-year-old girl named Flora, and she has a younger brother named Julian, and they've lived in foster home after foster home after foster home, and finally they have been adopted by a woman named Emily that Flora just calls her as my person, because she feels her track history has not been great, and she's had good foster homes and not so good foster homes. But the biggest part or problem is that she can't remember the beginning years. And at school, the kids are supposed to bring in a baby picture, and there are none of either one of these kids. And so they get this notion in their head that, well, we just weren't born. That's why there are no baby pictures. We came from the stars. We came from the grains of sand on the beach. We came from all these other different kinds of things, and she just refuses to believe that they were born like normal kids. And then one day, something happens in the story. I won't spoiler alert, but Emily decides that what needs to happen is the kids need to know more about their past. And all along she was worried that if they knew about their past, it would hurt them. But they need to face their past so they can go into their future. And so Emily takes the 2 kids on a journey to backwards in time so that they meet and they face all the different foster families where they live, all the way back to as far back as they can trace it. And it's a journey that changes Flora and Julian. It changes maybe not all the foster families, but certainly some of them. And it just was amazing. We have so many books that feature foster children, but I don't know, there's something really special about this book. So I hope that you will embrace it as well. Shelley, did you get to read this yet?
I have not, but I'm really interested in reading it. And I find it so interesting that before it used to be like these tough topics were only discussed in YA titles, but I feel like more and more middle grade are addressing these issues, which is a nice change, because kids, at all ages are experiencing these tough situations. So I think it's a great book for kids who are going through these situations themselves, but also will raise empathy for kids who are not in that situation.
That's so true. And what did I just heard this yesterday, maybe. Maybe it was John Shue who said it, because we're both at the AIM conference in Arkansas, and what was the book? I'm having a blank. But the point was that, oh, no, I know it was Wolf in the Snow. It was me talking. Because Wolf in the Snow, the point of it is, do we face our fears, or do we choose to have courage? And do we choose kindness? Because the whole point of Wolf in the Snow, which has 5 stars, is the story of a little girl who's lost and a wolf cub that are lost. And when they come together, she has to make a decision. Do I just leave him, this little creature I'm so afraid of, or can I face his pack and help him? And so if you want to know what happens, you'll have to read the book. I'm not telling you. So those are some of the books that have received 3, 4, 5, and then 6 stars, the Hate That You Give, which we did in the past. Remember that in addition to telling you about great books, we're also creating resources to help you use these books. So you'll find great resources for today's and other selections in our Junior Library Guild Book Talks to Go Spring 2017 live binder. And then remember to look on the book detail pages when you're at juniorlibraryguild.com, where you'll see a link to the live binder resources, and so you can find everything you need right on our website.
And also remember that Junior Library Guild members receive a discount on subscriptions to the Hornbook and School Library Journal. So be sure to subscribe today, and you'll have access to all the print features and all the reviews for SLJ. And SLJ is the largest reviewer of children's and YA books, so that's a lot of reviews.
I want to thank Deb and Shelley today. Thanks very much. I also want to let you guys know you can please join us next time on May 9th at 3 o'clock Eastern for Enriching Your Summer Reading Program, when Nick Glass, founder of TeachingBooks.net, will join Deb for a 30-minute look at digital resources and books for your summer reading programs. This webcast is K-12, so everyone will want to attend. If you can't make the date, register anyway. A link will be sent to you with a video archive of the webinar. And if you check out our webcast blog post on our website, you'll find a list of all the books with links to their book detail pages and plenty of other resources. So thanks again to our special guest, Shelley Diaz, for spending some time with us. And thanks to you, our listeners, for supporting these authors and illustrators with your time. Be sure to ask your account rep all about our book and category or books or categories, and contact our sales department for more information. Tomorrow, you will receive an automatic email regarding today's webinar. If you follow the link, you can watch the archived webinar and print your certificate of attendance after 10 minutes of viewing. Until next time, thanks again for joining us, and happy reading.